Okay, we're going to start by looking at how you work with images in PowerPoint, and then we're going to go to Google Slides. So there are a couple of different ways that you can add or change images to your presentation. These templates already have stuff in them, and I'm assuming you're going to want to put your own images in. So one way is to just do something called change image. So that would be to click on the image itself, then right click and go to this option here that says change picture. And there are a couple of different options: finding something online, finding something from the icons library. I'm just going to show you how to choose from a file on your own computer because that's probably the most likely scenario. We'll click that. I'm just going to choose another photo and click that and click insert. Now sometimes when you do this option, it automatically fits it into the existing frame, and that's great when that happens. Other times it's not going to work that way. So I'm going to do this again with a picture that's sort of a different size. Now notice what happened when I did that is it really changed the shape. If you want it to stay the exact same shape and size, you may not always get that. So then you would need to work with that image in the orientation that it's given to you. And I'll show you in a little while how to crop photos. So another way to get an image, if I was a little concerned about this happening, or I didn't know if it was going to do that, would be to just add an image. So I go to Insert, Pictures. Again, I go from a file here, so I'm going to just choose this one. And what that does is it just throws the picture onto the slide, and then I have to do things to it to change it. So I'm going to just drag from the corner. Anytime you resize an image, drag it from the corner and not from one of these sides, because look what happens. When I go like that, it just squishes it. So I'm going to hit undo. When you go from the corner, it keeps the proportions right. So then I can add the formatting that these guys also had. So I can click on this box here, and that gives it that nice frame, or I can, experiment with all kinds of other options if I want to do that. So now let's take a look at how to crop these photos. I'm going to remove this one. Let's say I wanted this to have the same kind of landscape orientation as these others do. I would need to do some pretty serious cropping to it. So I'm going to click crop. That gives me these black bars. So what I can do then is drag this up here. Now this is not a good photo to try to make like these, because it was really set up so that it would be a tall portrait style photo, but I'm going to just try to do it anyway, just to show you how I could turn it into something that was in sort of the same orientation. So now it's more of a landscape orientation. I click crop, and notice that it maintains all of the framing that it got, and now I can grab that corner and turn it into a landscape oriented photo. I'm going to show you with another template, the crisp template, because we've got some in here that are like really seriously cropped. This one, for example, I'll show you how I got this one. I'm going to insert that photo again. That comes like that. It's the same photo, but I did very significant cropping to that one. I really pulled down here and pulled way down here. And then once I had cropped it, then I dragged it. So if you wanted to, if you were working with that template and you wanted to get another photo that was the same kind of orientation as that one, what I would do is I would just go right over it and then continue cropping it until I had the same size, basically. And you can kind of see it behind there. And one of the things you can do when you crop is if you get the size right, but it's not exactly in the position you want, you get the size in place, and then you can actually see how these crosshairs are appearing. Then you can actually drag the photo within that frame and crop it that way. So since I'm here, I'm also going to show you now how to recolor, because you'll notice that this one back here is black and white. In PowerPoint, this is pretty easy. You click on it and then you go to color, and it's going to give you lots of different options. For this one, I think I just chose this very first option to just turn it into a black and white, but I can also tint it. I could have tinted it to sort of match, the theme. You can even go into more variations and choose other colors from your theme. And I'm going to have another video on color, but if you don't like the options that you have here, you can go into design and right here change the actual color palette that your theme happens to be working with, or you can even customize them down here. So that's how you work with photos in PowerPoint. Now let's take a look at doing the same thing in Google Slides. Suppose I wanted to change this one. I would click on the photo, right click, and I would go to Replace Image. Once I roll over that, I get a bunch of different options. Again, I can upload from the computer, I can get something from my drive, and so on. I'm going to do the same thing, upload from the computer. And I'm going to start by choosing this photo because this one's going to fit just nicely into that frame. But as of right now, Google Slides will actually pull a photo that isn't in the right orientation, and it'll still put it into that frame. So I'm going to show you that with this other photo. Now notice when I put this one in, it just keeps it inside that frame. So that's a nice feature of Google Slides, is that it's going to do that. And then I can just, if I click crop, I can do that same thing. I can drag it to fit, but it sort of chooses an orientation, or it chooses a framing that it thinks is going to look good. So just like with PowerPoint, I can also just add a photo. So I can click Insert Image and I get that same option. I can pull this in and it will just put it on the screen again, and I can just do the same stuff to it. I can resize it. Now notice that this actually kept the same formatting as the other photo. I'm not sure why it does that, but if I wanted to change that, Google Slides does not have the same just nice library. It might change to add that someday, but right now it doesn't have a library of frames, so you have to manually do that. So if I click on this, this is the border, so I can change the size of the border, make it thinner or thicker. I can change the color here. I can pretty much make it whatever color I want. There are also other options. If I click Format Options over here, I can choose to have it have a drop shadow, and even within that, I can really change, you know, some of these aspects, the angle, the distance, the size. I can give it a really deep, see there it is, a deep shadow, and I can change where it is. If I move this around, it's going to sort of rotate where that drop shadow is. So you can play around with that. I'm going to turn that off for right now. And just like before, I can also crop it. So I could make this, I'm just going to do one quick crop just to show you, and then I click out of it and now it's a different size. And then of course I can resize it. If I wanted to recolor, let me get rid of that border because, or change the color of it because that fuchsia is irritating me. Okay. If I wanted to recolor this, I click on it again, and that's another one of the options. If I just go here, I get a lot of these different options. Now, I'm not sure how to add anything else besides this. There may be limited options within Google Slides, but I'll just click one of these to show you. So if I wanted to do that, I can do that. So those are some of the basic ways to work with images within PowerPoint and Google Slides.